And welcome to Healthcare Sucks. This is the early morning edition, depending which place you live at. East Coast, West Coast, West Coast. It's definitely early morning. East Coast, medium early morning. How about that? Excuse me. If you're overseas, it might even be lunchtime. You never know. With that, we're going to jump right into it today. Gosh, guys, I wish I had good news for you. I really do. Talk about call this the gloom and doom report. Pretty much so what it is. I think that's what we'll call this gloom and doom report. W.19.C. Um, with that being said, Italy's like 10 million people on lockdown. Is this starting to sound like China? Are we seeing the same scenario? And we've got Dr. John Campbell talking about a huge, possibility that I don't want to even run the numbers. I'll have to go back and look at it again, but just some big numbers of where this is going. Kind of where we were talking. I think I told you guys about an interview with Pastor Paul and Mike of uh, Council of Time. Again, really super great guy, very intelligent. Pastor Paul's a good guy. Um, but Mike, Council of Time, one more time. I told him, in case you're a new viewer, he used to work for special forces, etc. Three-letter agency, possibly. Anyway, he's got very deep connections, very smart, very worldly. Um, when we checked this out about 3 weeks ago, he said if it continued, 60% of the world could end up having this. So it's definitely a gloom and doom report. While Canada spikes, Washington State is spiking, and it's not even, this is just a touch up there. I feel bad for you guys in Washington, especially at the Kirkland place up there. Sorry for your loss again, guys. And this should be, this video should be like a wake up call, guys. I'm going out and doing probably one last run for canned goods and a few other things to supplement. And then I'm getting ready to keep an eye on things pretty close. I did some videos today. It's hitting Oregon pretty hard. Um, and that's just what they're telling us, of course. My connection said there's a lot more going on, as some of my other connections in different states. And we actually have an inside that has told me that there's a lot more going on than that they're tapping it down pretty hard. Again, I've explained the reasons why. Go back and watch some of my videos. A lot to do with the stock market, but it's already too late for that, guys. As far as I'm just going to tell you, it's too late for the stock market. And for Mr. T, should have got ahead of this. This is going to be the crack in his armor, I'm afraid. With that, don't break yourselves, but definitely go out and get some stuff. I'll try to run through a list tomorrow, but I'm going to jump into the news because I just want you guys to know what's going on. I love you all, and I'm going to pray, and we're going to get through this together because we're Team 99. Never forget it. We're the new Team 99 of the 99% because we ain't the 1%. We're getting pooped on. And they haven't talked about us having income while we're in quarantine, suspending our debts, or anything. Yeah, this is looking very ugly for the 99% right now. Lockdowns in California, bug swarms across the seas. We got things going on in Syria. I mean, I'm not saying it's the pale rider yet, but it's getting pretty ugly out there. Here we go. Let's check this out. This is ABC, guys. This is mainstream. Let's listen to what they have to say.
A quarter of the population and canceling many public gatherings. Government banning travel for about a quarter of the population and
One more time. How many is that?
Major lockdown in Italy. The government banning travel for about a quarter of the population and canceling many public gatherings nationwide. And for the first time, look at this, Pope Francis live streaming his Sunday prayer, hoping to keep away large crowds. More than 360 people have now died of the coronavirus in Italy, the most outside of China, and nearly 1,500 new cases were reported just in the past 24 hours. Here's ABC's Jennifer Eccleston.
In Italy tonight, 16 million people in the country's hot zone now in lockdown. That's more than a quarter of its population under quarantine, with cases soaring to more than 7,000 infected and 366 deaths, a 30% spike overnight, the most fatalities outside of China. Travel in and out of 14 northern provinces restricted until April, including the city of Venice, a tourist favorite, and the massive Lombardy region, home to fashion capital Milan. An eerie quiet in both cities' iconic sites on Sunday, but overnight, panic at this train station. Passengers desperate to escape, fearful trains would be shutting down. Weddings and funerals postponed, ski resorts, gyms, and malls closed. Visitors banned from the Vatican Museum, Pope Francis praying for the victims of the epidemic through live stream, sealed off from worshippers. Then, surprising a few pilgrims with a quick wave from his balcony over St. Peter's Square. Tonight, the unprecedented quarantine winning praise from the WHO, its chief calling it a courageous step to protect the Italian people. Tom?
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos.
And I gotta say, when the poop, basically is afraid, there should probably be reasons. Real quick on Mr. T, president-wise, unless he's got something special we don't have, he shouldn't be out there running around. I mean, it's not good. And there's a rumor that's been passed around. I don't know. I can't confirm it. But that somebody came from the APAC meeting where he did his speech and came down with it. So that means people have got it there. This is no joke anymore. Anybody that thinks this is not for real, can you remember in your lifetime, and I'm looking you in the eye, in my lifetime, when so many things have been postponed, locked down, and, told not to meet, and then they keep saying, well, if you're elderly, this and that, and if you're this or that, and, if the elderly shouldn't be doing it, nobody should probably be doing it. I mean, period, guys. This is to the point to where all the big companies are having their people work at home. The Amazons, the Microsofts, all that kind of stuff, they're working at home. We've got schools no longer having classes because teachers are showing up with it. I mean, most likely, this is in your neighborhood already, guys. It just the people haven't been diagnosed, and part of that is when this started and they've been tamping it down. They've been calling a lot of these cases the flu because that's the way they've been handling it. And from the top, I told you, the stock market, they're trying to control the crash. But this is the one everybody's talked about, guys. It's going to crash. I don't know how far it's going to go down, but they should just tuck and roll because that's inevitable. Did you understand that? Well, I barely did. So let's check a couple more things out this morning because doom and gloom, definitely, my friends.
With 2 more cases confirmed in New South Wales as authorities overseas take drastic measures to fight the outbreak. We have reporters tracking the crisis in different corners of the globe. First to today, Sydney reporter Gabrielle Boyle at Epping Boys High School. Gabby, students are starting to arrive there as the school reopens.
Yeah, that's correct, Tracy. New South Wales has confirmed that Epping Boys High has been thoroughly cleaned in an effort to prevent the coronavirus spreading further. Of course, it was on Friday that we got confirmation that a 16-year-old Year 11 student had tested positive to the virus. And it was on Friday that the school was shut down for the day. But it's back to school as usual today for all of the students except a few that were directly in contact with this young student. They'll be forced to stay in quarantine for the next 14 days. We can now confirm 40 official cases of coronavirus here in New South Wales. Over the last 24 hours, we've had confirmation of a man in his 70s who presented to St Vincent's Hospital on Friday with symptoms. He has since tested positive, and health authorities are working to contact anyone else that he came in contact with at the hospital during that period. Also, a man in his 40s who had travelled overseas in recent weeks has tested positive. And sadly, that news that an 82-year-old resident at a Macquarie Park nursing home has lost his life, the third victim to coronavirus here in Australia. Tracy?
Gabby, thank you. Let's go now to Ben Avery in Italy. Ben, 16 million people are now in lockdown. How is this going to work there?
Well, Tracy, basically anyone in the affected areas, so the red zones that they're called, will not be allowed to come and go from those areas unless they have a very good reason to do so. We're talking about regions like Milan, the city of Milan, where I am at the moment, also right across to the tourist mecca of Venice, so a very large area across the northeast of Italy. The reason for this is a sudden spike in the number of coronavirus cases. There's been an extra 1,500 in the last 24 hours. There have now been 366 deaths in Italy, and right now we're being told there are 650 people in intensive care with coronavirus. So it's led to these very drastic measures. We know that theatres, cinemas, swimming pools, pubs, nightclubs, all being forced to close. It means the streets here in Milan are very, very quiet at the moment. People are just wondering now whether perhaps all of these measures have just come a bit too late, Tracy.
All right, Ben Avery in Italy, thank you, and also to Gabby Boyle.
Members of our Defence Force are in isolation as the coronavirus crisis escalates. The Navy personnel are the latest patients diagnosed with the illness, but federal politicians and their staff could also be among those who came into contact with the pair.
The man in his early 80s, a resident of the Baptist Care Facility in Macquarie Park, was hospitalised.
Finnegan. This is Counting the Cost on Al Jazeera, your weekly look at the world of business and economics. This week, recession, why an emergency Fed rate cut just isn't good enough to save the global economy from the impact of the fast-spreading coronavirus. As the World Bank offers billions to developing nations to support healthcare systems, we're inside a lab that's working to find a vaccine to fight the virus. And oil companies in the Republic of Congo have discovered vast oil reserves, but drilling could be environmentally damaging.
Midday, and it's Sunday the 8th of March. Now, yesterday I completely messed up the sound, so my apologies for that, and thank you for those people that kindly pointed that out.
Dr. John Campbell.
Now, things are moving rapidly with COVID-19, the coronavirus discovered in 2019. Now, basically, I think this is the worst contagion of my career. Now, I started as a first-year student nurse in 1975, 3 weeks after my 18th birthday. And the only thing I can compare this with really is the outbreak of HIV, AIDS in the early 80s. When I first started learning about that, that was remarkably concerning, and my concerns have been largely borne out with that, although it could have been even worse. We didn't know in the early days. But this is the worst thing, I would say, including the early AIDS outbreak, because COVID-19 is transmitted in social circumstances, whereas HIV is transmitted mostly sexually and via needle use, mostly. Not exclusively. So basically, I think we're looking at the world's worst pandemic since the 1918-1919 pandemic.
Did you hear what he called it? From a smart man. WHO, forget the bonds. The illness bonds that you and the World Bank been counting on people getting sick. You're not going to get the payout. Not if I can help it from healthcare sucks. I'm going to make the world know about your dirty little stock market deal where people were bidding on illness bonds from World Bank and WHO. If they don't clarify it as a pandemic before June, then they get paid. It's sick. It's in my other videos, guys.
Now, this was caused by the H1N1 influenza virus. Now, we know this. If you go onto YouTube, you can watch some fascinating studies of scientists going to dig up bodies that were buried as a result of this influenza outbreak in 1918-19 that were buried in the permafrost. And they were able to do genetic analysis to show that this was indeed the virus. Now, that outbreak affected 27% of the world's population at the time. 500 million people were infected. It killed 200,000 people in my country. It killed 500 million people worldwide. Now, I'm not yet comparing this with that, but I am saying that this is the worst pandemic, in my view, or is going to pan out to be the worst pandemic, in my view, since that time. God willing, it won't be anything like as bad as that. So what we need is a wartime footing to fight this, because at the moment we're just dithering around the edges, really. I mean, you know, in the Western world especially, we need to go into a real wartime footing to fight this common enemy. And in terms of the science, we need a vaccine, and people are working on it flat out, but we really need a Manhattan Project or an Apollo Moon program to get that vaccine up and running. Now, I'm going to start off with a few numbers which I've been thinking about overnight. And these are the first numbers I want to mention. Well, that's the total number of confirmed cases globally, first of all, up there. Now, these numbers here, 80%, 15%, 5%, of the people that get infected, 80% get a mild illness. That's great. 15% are really quite poorly, but 5% are critical and need quite a lot of medical support to get them through this. So this 5% that's critical, I'm quite happy to define that as people that might not make it without medical support.
5% is huge, guys.
Now, if you take, for example, 1 million people who are infected, 800,000 will get a mild illness, absolutely wonderful. But 150,000 are going to be quite ill. And 50,000 of those are going to need medical support to get through. Now, many countries in the world cannot supply medical support to that many people all at once if there's 1 million people infected. In fact, I can't think of any country in the world that can supply that much critical medical support to 50,000 people all at the same time. And this is going to increase the case fatality rate where healthcare provision is weaker. No question about that. This is going to increase case fatality in poorer areas with weaker healthcare systems. And that's if 1 million people are infected.
And keep in mind that we're heading towards that number really fast, guys. It's crawling right now, supposedly, with what they're letting us know. But China alone could have already had that 1 million. I'll put that to you. Easily, just to wipe out their poor. While the rich, if you go back and look at my videos, are moving into those ghost cities that were built. Yeah, the rich and elite, Emperor's family, all those people are already moving in those cities. Why the poor Wuhan people, the average Joes like us, the 99%ers, are getting killed off over there and burned up in incinerators. I covered that too. And it's no joke. Like the truck and trailers that you see hauling our goods around, they dumped off like, I don't know how many dozens of those, and they had like a jet turbo engine hookup to incinerate. So they were cremating in seconds. So we're never going to know the exact amount out of China. It's just how it is. And South Korea has gotten kind of quiet now as their numbers went up. North Korea, we heard through the grapevine, is getting hit pretty hard over there. So basically, if you guys have this first time you're tuning in or something, it's everywhere but Antarctica so far, which is kind of strange. If you know about the Antarctica thing, think about that for a minute. Anyway, this is why I've been telling everybody to just get prepared and stuff. You can go back and watch Dr. John Campbell. He's got a bunch of good stuff. It's very scientific. It's kind of like going to Dutch Sense for earthquakes. Only he breaks it down like that. Dutch Sense break down every earthquake to the T, man. He's the great earthquake detective. Hey, Dutch. And now Dutch is even getting involved in this thing a little bit. I think actually every good YouTuber that cares about you guys and us surviving this as Team 99, we're all just trying to get through this. And there's just so much going, guys. I told you this is at the beginning, way before Super Bowl when I did the countdown. I told you guys, we're going to start seeing some real numbers after Super Bowl, probably 2 weeks, give or take, after that. And it's kind of been revving up, across the world. So I'm going to let you guys go tonight, or this morning, should I say. And I'll keep you posted. If I see anything that I missed tonight, 16 million people locked up in Italy is horrific. I think that's enough for an eye-opener this morning. And then I urge you, to call your local governors, senators, tell them, hey, when I'm quarantined, you need to postpone our deaths and make it so we get to keep our credit rating. And you need to provide us with a card so we can order stuff to come to our house. And this is not alone. This is the government. Mr. T signed 8.3 billion. That's enough money for everybody to have a big slice of the pie. They can still make this stuff. Remember how many millions are a billion? 999 million is a billion. Okay, you got that many millions floating around. Every household in America could be given a card with 10 or 20 grand. I'm throwing a big number out there at you guys. Of course, they'll never give us that kind of money. We would be the 1%, wouldn't we? But I do urge you to call your representatives and say, how can I afford to stay home? And make sure they know that we're not paying this back. And many of us are living check to check already because they've squeezed us for income tax so hard, guys, that a third of your check already goes to taxes. So, it's time for the government to do their part and pay back the American people. We've worried about people coming across this border and all these newcomers, and let's hand out free stuff here and free stuff there. Let's take care. Now it's take care of America. Take care of America. Yeah, it's time for all these, no matter red, blue, what color of political BS you're on, what state you're in, from California to New York to everywhere in between. It's time for all those bozo governors and bozo House and Senate members, put the little pin on that paper. The president's already signed 8.3 billion. It's going out to the states. Let's make sure everybody gets one of those cards for when we get quarantined. Otherwise, people are not going to stay. Let's get real. And I'm pushing for people to stay in quarantine until they're starving. If you're starving and your family's suffering, you're going to go get food. That's why, again, I'm trying to get us a little bit prepared. And with that, God bless you guys. And thank you for watching Healthcare Sucks. And remember, we are Team 99. And we're going to get through this. Mark my word. God bless you. And have a great day. I'll be back later today. And Healthcare Sucks! Over and out.